My name is Lucian Ciolan. I'm one of the vice-rectors in University of Bucharest, in charge with development programs and lifelong learning. And my role in the CIVIS project, it is to be a co-leader of work package 7, which is called Teaching Excellence. I think that the key idea here it is that pedagogy is at the heart of teaching and learning process. And you know, learning is one of the key survival mechanisms of the human beings. So being in the universities, I think that when we strive for teaching excellence, we have the chance to create together what I would call a teaching brand of the CIVIS Alliance. We would like to underline the importance of the quality of pedagogical interaction between academics and students. We would like to emphasize and celebrate the importance of the learning process per se, and we would like to very much to praise the courage of those colleagues who go a little bit out of the box and who try not necessarily just to innovate the process for the sake of the innovation, but to find new ways to adapt what we call higher education teaching and learning to the new generation of learners, to the new challenges of the current context, to the new way the world develops around us, including the world of work, but not only. With the help of the colleagues from all the universities in the Alliance, we thought that a good idea would be to start a two-way process. One way of the process was to do a kind of screening of examples of pedagogical innovation that exist in our universities. And the other part of our work was to research a little bit what was done up to now according to the scientific literature. So basically we started from both sides, from practice and from theory. And we found in the middle those examples that we call them not necessarily examples of best practice, but I would call them examples of relevant practice in the pedagogical innovation that we found across our alliance. I think that what is the way we try to achieve innovation in pedagogy, it is looking on the one hand to the innovations in practice and try to conceptualize those innovations and to make them known and available for the broader community, but in the same time to look at the challenges around us and to look how in other places, in other times, universities try to address those challenges and to get inspired out of those as well. It's clear that one way to innovate in pedagogy is to use technologies. And a lot of innovations are technology related. Some of them very sophisticated innovations which are related to artificial intelligence, but some of them to, you know, basic use, but in a different way of technological tools to enhance quality of teaching and learning. Of course, that these innovations were somehow privileged over the last years because we didn't do necessarily innovation by design, but we did a lot of innovation forced by the current circumstances. And that was quite a large cluster of innovation. There are other clusters that we call them methodological innovations. A lot of people, they are trying to analyze processes of learning and try to identify new ways of learning. For instance, linking the learning with what is going on in the broader community and doing service learning or project-based learning or problem-based learning. Other innovations are linked to other areas. For instance, we have pedagogical innovations which are exactly based on those connections with the real life challenges. And then this is another wave, let's say, of pedagogical innovation. Real world based or community based, technology based, methodology based, and so on. Many of those innovations actually they touch on more than one cluster. So they could involve in the same time technology and connection to the community in a very integrated and fruitful way. I think that the whole idea when we look to this pedagogical innovation, one interesting finding is that, first of all, there is a strong preoccupation of academics to motivate students to get engaged in their own learning, and not just to get engaged in the learning, but also to co-create their own learning experiences. This was one of our conclusions. And I think another conclusion could be that if we look to those kinds or types of pedagogical innovation, is the fact that they reflect somehow in the same time the classical tradition of the universities when they organize learning, but in the same time they reflect very new kinds of approaches that are meant to open a little bit the university towards the broader area of lifelong learning, of society, of civic engagement. So learning beyond content, I would say, and learning beyond walls a little bit. Each university volunteered to offer workshops and sometimes even more longer trainings for the staff in the Alliance about different sides of pedagogical innovation according to the expertise in which they believe they are good and they have something interesting or relevant to share. We would like to transform these workshops not just in a project activity, but in a longer time perspective. We look at creating a CIVIS course on innovative pedagogies to be addressed not just to the academics of the Alliance, but maybe even outside of the Alliance. This is how we would like to build this CIVIS teaching brand. And moreover, we would like to connect, by the end of the project, different kinds of institutional structures dealing with the quality of teaching and learning in our universities. There are different kinds of laboratories or centers or development centers or groups, informal groups of researchers who are very much passionate about pedagogical innovation, and we would like to create a sustainable network of these specialists to work together, both to do research, but having a look into the future today, when the future is so much unpredictable, it's a challenge in itself. But I believe that there are some key characteristics of the future of the higher education that we could not avoid and we should not avoid. One, it's clear that learning in higher education is going to get more hybrid. We realize that important parts of the learning processes could be articulated using the online learning and online technologies. I truly believe that especially in the master degrees, for instance, in the professional master degrees, more blended programs will appear, as well as blending other kinds of activities. I also believe that higher education needs to be much more flexible than it used to be up to now. A whole discussion started in our alliance and beyond our alliance about micro programs and micro credits, the link of this innovation with the lifelong learning. I see university of the future as an open space for learning, available both for traditional students, but also for lifelong learners who could come not necessarily to take a full degree, but to gain competencies, to gain skills, to gain credits, and to be recognized for that part of their study. Because, as I have said earlier, learning is our main survival mechanism, and society is challenging us all the time to interact with it in a more intelligent way and to survive different kinds of challenges.